Hey everybody, this is the Distractor. We are going to be doing a one-on-one with a buddy of mine, Greg, from over in the Discord, and I'm going to jump in and grab the power cable because I'm about to die. All right. Now I'm not sure how you add someone here to the waiting room, so we'll see how that works. This is a work in progress. First time I've done these one-on-one, but I am super excited about it. There we go. Hey, Greg, you there, buddy? There we go. Greg, can you hear me, brother? Loading up. Hey, Greg, can you hear me, brother? Hello, hello, hello. Right. See him here. Maybe we can. Hey, Greg, can you hear me, bro? Greg, you there, brother?
Yeah, I'm here.
What's up, man? Good to have you.
Well, not much. I don't know if I'm muted or unmuted.
So you're not muted. You're on video. I think I invited you to do that. You certainly don't have to. I'm going to share my screen here in a minute, but really glad to do this and try it out. So let's. I'm going to jump in and share my screen here. Just give me a sec. Let me get this ready. There we go, right there. And you just tell me, man, what you want to talk about, all right? And I'll try my best to answer as I can. Can you see my screen there, Greg?
Yeah.
Perfect. We're looking at the ENZC chart. Is that right?
Yep.
Perfect. So, Greg, you want to maybe guide me here on what you want to talk about, and I'll try to do my best.
Well, right there where you see that, you have that bottom channel on the left-hand side of the screen where it's up top there, where it's kind of flattened out.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be like the top of the channel, like that we have to break for a breakout?
Are you talking about these two big green candles right here? And we hit a high right there at, what is that, 1980? Is that what we're talking about?
No, down a little bit lower than that.
Gotcha. Like right here?
Yeah.
1813. I think that's a solid call there, Greg. And what I would do is, just so I can remember that, I just go ahead and drop in that horizontal line right there. And I'm just using bar chart. I use it because it's free. So if you're ever using this, just click on that draw tool, go to horizontal line, and then you can drop it in wherever you want. It's pretty handy because I can then lower and raise it as I want. But I want to get it just right on there. So is that kind of what we're talking about, that right there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to scale out, Greg. Oh, go ahead, brother.
That's what I'll see on my chart and everything else. And, I don't got the bar chart. I'm just playing off TD Ameritrade, just my phone and stuff.
Right.
So I'm not highly into it. I'm trying to get into it. It just takes time. I don't have time to sit down on a computer or nothing like that. I'm just constantly working.
Yeah, man, I hear you, and good for you for doing that. I'm lucky. I'm on vacation right now, so I'm able to help out. But this is kind of what my chart looks like right now, and what I'm looking at is a 2-month time range. So from this period here to this period covers 2 months, and I'm looking at an intraday 240-minute time frequency. So that means each one of these candles is 240 minutes. And so what I did is, you can see, we've got our trend line right here, right? This line right there moving down. And this is what I'm looking at for a buy. So I'm going to move forward right here, Greg. And so when we hit this, what I call the triple bottom, there was a bottom, there was a bottom, there was a bottom. What I really wanted to see, and I didn't see it, was I wanted this candle to cross that line. And I felt that once it did, I would have confirmation that it was ready for to scale in with some confidence. That didn't happen. Instead, what happened is it then started moving down, right? And here's that line right there that we drew for you just now. I'll make that a little darker so you can see it clearly. But there's that line that you just called right there. And you'll see I have another dotted line right here. And this could disappear briefly. It could really hold. But what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing price lows move up. And this would then form, if we used your line that you identified, your resistance, this would then form what's called an ascending triangle. And that just basically is a bullish pattern. So good for you for calling the resistance, and we'll see if it plays out. If it doesn't, then what I would be doing is I would probably, let's see, I'm going to go back in. I'm going to take out this confirmation. No, I'll leave it. I'll leave the confirmation line. What I'd be doing instead, Greg, is when it gets up to this area right here, I'd probably sell off a sliver of my position. And then, because it's going to be, if it continues to trade in a range, and then when it comes back down to something all around the support, I would then buy more if this ascending triangle doesn't play out and we don't see a breakthrough. Does that make sense, Greg?
Yeah. You want to go back to the previous screen that you're on?
Yeah, the 5-day. I think that's what we're looking at. This one right here.
No. One more. It might be the month or 3 month.
All right. Well, let's look at this. So I've got a 1 month and I have a 3 months. And let's talk about it. Let's start using these terms here to be a little easier for us, Greg. So basically, the time range is how wide of a spectrum of time we want to look at. And the time frequency is how much we want one of these candles to cover. So if I did like a 1 year, for instance, right, that's pretty much everything, right? That's a 1 year time range. And I can do different time frequencies. This is a daily. I can do a weekly. That's a time frequency. It's changing the size. So what kind of a time range do you think you'd be interested in looking at?
Just I guess the one that you were on.
Okay. So the 1 month, something like this, or a longer time range?
Yeah, the 1 month, because we got that black line on the bottom for the 1559, I think it is.
Yeah. Support. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now I know we're above that. We did the 3 double bottoms, but just above there, you're not where the wicks actually touch that line, but just above where it's actually on the candle itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was messing around with just a pencil on my smartphone just to see for a straight line, because I was going from the base of the bottom of the candle all the way across, and then above there where it looks like it's reaching around 21 cents, then that would be coming down, at an angle too. So that's where I was coming up, kind of where that 18 cents, and I'm sure you were coming up with that 21 cents buffer, and
right,
somewhere around there, it's got to break out.
Mm-hmm. So are you, let's just for the sake of trying something out, are you suggesting maybe something like a trend line like that?
Yeah.
And then are you also suggesting something like a trend line like that?
Basically.
All right. So that right there, see how it comes to an apex? Like that's the point of our triangle right there.
Yeah.
This pattern is what we call a symmetrical triangle. And yeah, it might certainly play out. But what we also see a lot of times is we see, like, if we just go back in time, we see things that could have done that before, right? Like you could have a trend line right there, right? So what I try to do is minimize the noise, the things that happen in the middle, because that could be that could just be mud. It could just be going back and forth. You never know. But I love this line that you drew actually, because look at that. We hit those candles right there pretty strongly there as well, don't we? Right here where I just lowered that. So, and we hit it here too. So I think you might be onto something really, really smart there as well. Playing with these trend lines and horizontal lines can be a lot of fun. And basically what you want to do, regardless of whether we end up being right or wrong, is kind of an educated guess to minimize risk. So it's like if I draw this line and I feel pretty confident, I'll get rid of that one just so it doesn't confuse us. If I drew this line and felt pretty confident about it, then when it comes down and touches it, I'd say, okay, well, I feel more confident. I'm going to load up a little bit. But if it curves down, then I'm going to want to make sure we hit the solid support right here and don't go below it. Does that make sense, Greg?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, the line, the first line you drew for me, that really dark line.
Yeah,
I think it played a huge thing into a resistance for us in the past, and then it was acting as support because it was bouncing off it a bunch of times. But now it's acting as a huge resistance again. So it happened so many times.
I think you're dead on the money there. Resistance will often turn into support once we get above it. So you're absolutely correct. Absolutely. Now, Greg, I don't know if you've seen some of the things that I tend to talk about, but I just want to point out, even if we got rid of all of this, and we can draw it back real easy, so we'll just take it all out just to clean it up. Even if we took out every support and resistance possible, except for this one right here, this line that comes up, touches a bunch of wicks and bottoms right there, and then comes up. This is what I think we really want to test. I don't think if this support broke right there, that trend, that would be fairly significant to me, to where I would get a bit concerned. But instead, what I'm seeing is we've really hit it and managed to stay up it. And as we pointed out, a fairly reliable resistance has formed right here, right? And we can move that up a little tighter to those candles if you want. I mean, to be honest with you, you can always move these up even halfway through, so that that if I'm really averse to risk, if I got below that, I might freak out. Or if I wanted to make sure that I know when to scale out, I could just put these kind of right here and say anything that reaches above this point, I'm going to sell 10 or 20% of my position, in thinking that it might go down. And if it does, I'll be able to take the profits I made here and buy much larger amount of shares down here, if this continues to trade horizontally like it's doing.
So how come you wouldn't want to just personally just hold if you got a really good buy-in rate?
See, I think, that's perfect. That's money right there, Greg. If you have a good entry and you don't want to mess up your entry, let's say let's say you were one of these cats back in the day that seriously deserved to just, I don't know, like have their name hung in a great hall or something. Like if you were one of these people that bought in, say like 7 cents to 1 cent or something like that. Yeah, I think I would do what most of them are doing, and that's just be long and proud, and just I wouldn't try messing up my entry, because I want to see every time we reach a new 7 cents, I want to double my position. I'm
very close to that.
Yeah. So I think in all honesty, if you're right around there, this is what 15 cents we were calling support, 15.50. If you were significantly below that, I think that it's risky to start trying to increase your position, because every time you increase your position at a higher price, you're averaging up your entry.
Yeah. And then right, the screen that you're on, that really tall red candle, the very top of it.
This one right here?
Yep. The very top of it. What if you drew a line all the way across? We would be in a super tight wedge from way back in the day.
You're talking about this one right here, right? And then you wanted to do something like this?
Yep. So that could be the wedge that we're playing in right now.
It could be. For me, and it goes back to that idea of you got to figure out what you feel confident in. For me, I would like to see that play out. It would be interesting, but at the same time, I haven't really touched it enough for me to feel really confident about it. So you could be absolutely right, absolutely right. But for me, I would probably hesitate to make a statement like that. Whereas to say something like that triple bottom, that's something that I can pretty confidently say because yeah, we've hit this support. The support's not moving. We've hit it 3 times. To me, that's a bit different of a gig. Does that make sense, Greg?
Yeah, because I bought into it before the rise. I bought into it at 8 cents,
Good for
and
you, man.
I ended up averaging up,
Hmm.
and I did buy back. I bought more at 75 cents, and then it came back down and did a double bottom right at 7 cents again. So I bought it again right there,
Hmm.
and now my average is 0.092. So I don't know if I
Jeez.
really want to mess that up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think, Greg, maybe I need to make that clear in some of the videos and the messages I send out because the people that I'm worried about are people that bought in here. People that bought in above 40 cents. Those are the
Yep.
ones that I'm really, really trying to help. People like you are kind of gold, at this point. And I would just encourage you to be bullish and long and not mess up your position unless you're in a position to where you can significantly increase the size of your positions, the size of shares that you have, without really risking, buying in at a higher price, and that's going
Yeah.
to be hard to do.
Well, I think my wife would have other words. I think I'd be 6 feet under if I put any more money into it. So,
I hear you, brother. I hear you. Well,
but
oh,
yeah, if that is that drawing right there, if that is, I know there's a bunch of wedges play out along the whole line, but if this is the outcome overall, we could be in one extremely huge wedge with the breakout for the fifth leg. I think that we were beyond. That could be super super massive.
hmm. There's a lot of possibilities here. And one thing I talk about a lot, Greg, is the slow stochastic. In fact, someone was talking to me about it just a few minutes before our call, and the thing I like about this, I get mine always set to 21 14 14, and I love that because it only then talks to me about really long movements. So the fact that I'm oversold in the slow stochastic and coming up from a purely technical perspective, that to me makes me feel like there's room for a big bullish movement, just like the one we had here in the beginning when you were loading in at 7 and 9, and then going all the way up to 98 or even close to $1. I think it's 96 is what I'm showing here on the high, but
95 point 95.8.
yeah. So
I
I mean,
remember that day.
repeating a movement like that would be insane. And I think at that point you'd be pretty safe from being 6 feet underground with the old wife.
I once you did post that the slow stochastic, I'm like, holy, just pardon my language, holy shit. But man,
You saw that
that
there,
that
huh?
that's really good news. I mean, because like every single night, like that's my daily ritual. Just watch your videos, trying to learn, trying to see what you have to talk about. And the triple bottom, I think that was the absolute best one. Even though it didn't hit your breakout mark, I thought that was an awesome, awesome day.
Yeah.
And of course, there's going to be a pullback, which ain't a big deal because we're still up, what, 8% or something like that.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. And I'm just pointing out that the triple bottom here changed my time range here to 2 months and an intraday time frequency of 240 minutes. And again, there's that triple bottom right there. And I'll be real frank here with you, Greg. I'm curious if we're going to stabilize, like you said, about this support line, or if we're testing it, and there's the one thing about technical analysis, there's no crystal ball. You can only talk about what things have done. It's very hard to put any real confidence into what things will do.
For me, it seems like a bouncy ball is going off. Like somebody threw it real hard. It went all the way up to almost 96 cents. Come down, come up a little bit more, come down. Because it came down to 44 cents, then went back up to 78.9 cents, and then it's just now the bouncy ball is getting slower and slower and slower from the bounces, and she's ready to go for another run, I believe.
Are you
Same
talking
thing with
about?
yours.
I'm sorry, Greg, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Are you talking about these kind of movements right here where I've got? Mhm. So a lot of times, and I made this video. I don't know if many people have looked at what I call these trade school videos, but I made one on major movements, intermediate movements, and minor movements. And so a lot of times in a trend, like for instance, this is definitely a significant bearish movement. But even within those trends, we can get minor jumps like this where we can make a quick profit or whatever. So for me, I am a really bad day trader. And so I'll be just very honest, and that's why I like my slow stochastic to be at those larger settings of the 21-14-14, because for me, when I cross that orange line right there in my slow stochastic, up there at the highest point around here, to me, I think it's too risky. There's too much risk in taking a position right there if you're not already in. Now, if you're in like you did, 9 cents, 7 cents, I mean, yeah, you got to ride that out, But then right here, when I crossed right here at this point, which is now our support, right? This is we came through here, and now it's our support, and it was previously our resistance, like you pointed out. Resistance becomes support. This is where I would have then taken a position, and every time I could have hit this trend line right there, I would have then added more, and every time I hit that resistance, I would have sold off a small enough portion to where I wouldn't have risked my overall position in case it ran, but I could then load up on the profits. I could get a bigger position, and I'm not messing up my my core position there. That's just the way I would have done it, the way I would have played it. But as you said, if your position ever is at risk and you feel there's ultimately a bullish movement, which I've argued that, if we're talking about major, intermediate, and minor movements, what I'm seeing here, if this is a major movement, inside that major movement, we had minor bullish movements. Intermediate bullish movements, intermediate bearish movements. And then inside of that, we had little minor trends. So I wouldn't want to mess up my position on this larger bullish trend if my entry is below what I'm calling that support line. Does that make sense, Greg?
Yep.
I know you I really liked what got us thinking about this. You were saying you wish you could sit down and talk to someone about things. I mean, are you feeling that this is accomplishing what you had hoped it would, or are there more queries you'd like to talk about?
Well, I mean, I tried day trading in the past, and I didn't do so hot. Just probably like you were, just basically starting out, and found this stock, and I don't know. I know you're not supposed to marry a stock, fell in love with the stock, but I think out of all the stocks I've had, I think this one has the most potential, and this is the absolute longest time I've held it. So I don't know. I think I'm gonna keep on holding, and I don't know. I might hold for 5 years, might hold for 10 years. There might be dividends make me want to hold longer. I don't know.
Yeah. And by no means, Greg, am I trying to be some financial advisor or anything. This is just me sharing what I'm thinking, what I'm looking at. And, I'm hoping it's helpful, but everyone has to do what they feel good with,
You know, see, I just want to, I guess I got years to keep playing around, keep learning, keep trying to do this, try to do that, just playing around with charts a lot is what I want to do. And that's why you basically intrigued me more into learning more about charts. So when this actually does pop off and take off, I have enough money to play with, and where the old lady ain't gonna bury me anymore. She'd be happier in hell.
I will be the first to say that if you want to, sorry, my coffee went down the wrong pipe. Excuse me. Excuse me, man. I'll be the first one to say that, give me a sec here, brother. Watch me die on a video. Just give me a sec. You there, bro?
Yep.
So I'm still here, still with you. I survived. So I would say that if you want to get a good sense of how to read charts, I love looking at sector ETFs. Pick a few that I have a little watch list on my bar chart account where I've got some sector ETFs, and I'll look at those and just kind of test myself. And the great thing is you can go to some of these and, I'll put it on, max time range and frequency quarterly, because these ETFs have run for so long. And it's amazing just how you see these patterns play out. I've heard a lot of people talk about, we can't really do it so much in the OTC. And I think one of the main reasons, because OTC runs tend to be about, 2 weeks. And so it's hard to get enough time on something to see a pattern really develop. But it's really good. The other thing that I'm a big fan of is people like myself who do these YouTube videos on technical analysis. To be honest, I'd rather go to the source. I'd get the books that are by the founders of it, and I read this guy Shabacher. He wrote a book in 1932 that's the Bible of technical analysis, and all of his charts are super old, and they wouldn't necessarily do me a lot of good if I wanted to see it play out in real time. But you use the word wedge, and he's very particular about the way he defines a wedge versus a pennant versus a triangle. And the various different kinds of triangles. And I hear a lot of people misuse some of these words. I hear, and so going into whoever it is that was the founder of it, and then who built off of that founder, and reading those books is a great way to develop, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm wondering if he basically made like a bottom line for everybody and to go into it, like the entire world, like even the M&Ms and everybody else go into that, be like, okay, this is our baseline. This is what we have to go by. Mm-hmm. This is what's going to happen,
Yeah. For me, a lot of people will kind of cuss out the MMs. I see it play on Twitter. I'm sure you do too. But at the same time, part of me thinks, what can we learn from these guys? Because they obviously know what the F they're doing,
Yeah. Well, they can only hold down a stock so long too.
Mm-hmm.
And they're playing with, of course, a lot more money than all of us have, but either way, they can only hold down a stock so long. And then that just, with senior slow stochastic coming back up, they're definitely trying to scare people out of that right now to not make that come back up again, so they can make a lot more money. But as soon as it touches, they could just be like, all right, you know what? Just let it run. We'll make some money on the way up, and then we're going to short you guys on the way down and see who falls.
And I would not be surprised. I talk a lot about accumulation. I would not be surprised if some of these big kahunas out there are just, accumulating. Because imagine if you came in, and you were able to accumulate here on this bottom trend line, and just, every time it hit, you were able to sell off 10 or 20%. and then you're able to take that profit and then maybe buy 40% or whatever, I mean, a much, almost doubling that amount probably, or slightly less from the profits you made there to increase your position. I mean, it's really clever. It's really clever what some of these people do. And that's why I've been trying to talk as much as I can about, knowing when to accumulate, distributing, keep, and then if it goes back down, accumulating more, distribute up on top, accumulate more. But as we've agreed, for someone like yourself with the entry you have, you don't want to risk that.
Yeah. See now, sorry. When you, when you're doing that, you're, buying and selling, you're into the short-term capital, aren't you?
Well, the idea, the goal, let's talk about the goal. Maybe that'll be a little clearer. And I'm gonna jump into the 2-month. I'll jump into the 2-month intraday. That'll be a better way for us to look at it and talk about it. So when I talk about doing that, the goal here isn't making profits. That's not the goal. The goal here is not to make a profit from 1555 to what is that? That was 22. That's not the goal. Instead, the goal is to increase the amount of shares I have. Right. So if I take $100, right, buy $100 at the support, and then I get to the resistance and I sell off $30 worth, right? And remember, price has risen, so I sell off fewer shares, right, than I need to make that money. And then when I get back down to support, now suddenly my money's a lot more valuable. I can buy more, so I'm buying a larger position, getting to the top, doing the same. And this is just having in a limit buy at resistance and limit sell at resistance or something like that, and a limit buy, whatever, blah blah blah. I'm not making a very clear statement there, so scratch that, please. But the idea isn't to take profits. The idea is to funnel the profits back into creating a larger position.
Yeah.
That makes sense, Greg?
Yeah. See, there's umpteen times where, like I said, rode all the way up the top, rode all the way back down. There's umpteen times where I'm just kicking myself for not selling at the top, and then come back down. I can increase my position 10 times what I have now.
Right.
And then when I went up to 30, I could have sold again and then triple my position when I came back down again. It's like, how many times? But that's why I was trying to get more intrigued with the charts so I can play more. And I was like, well, I'll just try and learn the charts more and more, give it a couple more years. I'll learn those charts. I'll go, be able to run with, or try to run with the big dogs, I should say.
Well, and I think you're right on. So here I am. I'm looking at the daily. You'll notice the slow stochastic changes when I change my time frequency. So this is the daily. So I've got more ins and outs here, right? This is always a good way, in my opinion, whenever I cross that orange line, when the gray line crosses under the orange, that's a good sell signal. Crossing above is a good buy signal. And so this is a good way to kind of have someone check you and say, whoa, don't put yourself in a bad position. That is helpful. If you're just looking for a simple buy sell indicator, the slow stochastic's a great one. Another thing you can do is every time here in the RSI that we get into overbought, it's always a good idea to take a little bit of profit when you get into overbought. Because the Wyckoff cycle is basically that things go from oversold to overbought to oversold to overbought, and so you want to take profits at the top of that cycle. You want to accumulate at the bottom of the cycle. Slow stochastic and RSI are just different tools of doing that. There's another indicator that I've used. I go here to study, and there it is: accumulation distribution Williams. And you can change the timeline if you need to. That's down here at the bottom. And basically they say, yeah, the same thing. Every time you cross below that line, that green line, that's a sell signal, and you just don't buy, you don't buy. And then right around here, you start buying and accumulating. But again, it's just finding, if you're an indicator person, that's a good way of doing it. The other way of doing it, I've heard people say that in the same way that if you lost this amount of money, you would be freaking out. If you gain that amount of money, you might want to say, well, maybe now it's time to start, taking some profits.
Yeah.
Don't ruin your whole position, but realize you want to pay yourself for the hard work you've done to get there.
I gotcha.
Well, Greg, this was really great, man. I'm glad we did this. Thanks so much for giving your time to do this. It was great to do a one-on-one and see what kind of questions you had. Anything else before we say goodbye?
No, I think we should be good. Definitely like to do this again, later on down the road, of course.
Yeah. And I want to hear your successes, so when you do well, definitely DM me or tag me on something and let me know what's going on. And if you're hitting a rough patch, let me know that as well. Cause we're all trying to learn. And I'll be honest, everything I know, I learned through losses. And so, it's a lot of people I've heard call it market tuition. And I've paid mine, and I'm trying to find ways that maybe others don't have to pay so dearly,
Yeah. Especially the people above 50 cents or something,
Yeah. I'm really, really feeling for those guys. I know they're calling themselves bag holders, and I feel rough about that. And I'm hoping I can help as much as possible for them to find good ways to average down their entry,
Yeah.
Greg, man, this is really cool. It was a nice opportunity to get to know you, man. Thanks, brother.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you for
Yeah,
your time
and
and everything else.
to tell your wife not to bury you so quick, all right?
Not just yet.
Yeah. We want to see this turn around, Just
So,
keep showing her the slow stochastic and say, hey, Jay says give me a little longer.
yeah, right?
All right, brother. You be good, man.
All right. Have a good day.
Yeah, take care, brother. Bye.
Bye.